Hey guys, welcome back to Light and Love Podcast. Welcome to the first episode of 2025.
Yay!
We hope you guys had a good New Year's.
Yeah, I hope it was filled with many blessings and your New Year's off to a wonderful start.
Yes. Today is our second part of our Made for More series.
So excited for today's episode.
Today we're going to be talking a little bit about purity and just relationships and being a woman of God and a man of God, and a little bit about godly relationships and kind of what that looks like.
Because it's a very important topic nowadays because relationships have been twisted
Yes.
and the devil likes to mess with what God has for relationships. So we're going to hit on it and it's going to be a probably a long episode.
Maybe a little controversial.
Just a tiny bit, but it's going to be a super important one, and we're going to tell a little bit about our opinions on it, where we're at and stuff like that. And yeah, so let's get started. So our first thing is about being made for more and not settling,
Yes.
because wow, is that important? Wow,
Definitely.
is that important? God, I think you said this last episode, God has like so much more for you. And I think there's a difference between like, how do I word this? Like what the world has set out for relationships versus what like God has set out for it. Like how a man of God, woman of God treats you is like so different than what like people of this world like treat you. And I can see it from my previous like experiences. Like there's so many different things that I've learned while just like doing this podcast, like while just getting ready for this podcast. Like there's so many different things that I learned that I wasn't doing in previous relationships, what my partner wasn't doing in previous relationships, and how like my mind has changed from that now. Like just looking over it and like knowing not to settle for less than what God has for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Oh, not crazy again. We're already starting. Oh my gosh. Crazy count. Anywho, but what else? God forgives too. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Coming from someone who has an experience with like relationships and stuff like that, it's easy to get caught up in your past, but like that's the whole idea of what we're talking about today is like being made for more than what your past was and like moving forward kind of thing, and knowing that God forgives and has more for you.
And as far as like definitely relationships go and being made for more, like don't think just because you're in a bad relationship that you don't deserve something better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like a lot of the times people get into toxic relationships and that can turn abusive and like stuff like that, and they think that there's no way out, or maybe they
Yeah.
think that they deserve that.
Yeah.
And I think that can lead to some bad things.
Oh my gosh, especially if that's what they've seen their whole life.
Yeah.
That's so hard. Like if you grew up in like an abusive household and like you think that's what you deserve because that's the only love you've seen,
Read
that's
some of this
heartbreaking. Yeah,
and
because
see the love.
God's love. Can we
The
talk about that?
greatest love
Yep.
story of all time
Yep.
is Jesus Christ.
We like brain linked there. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Like God's love is the most important love.
Yes.
And he shows you how to love. Like we can list all these things today and we can talk about this for the next probably like 45 minutes like we're going to, but God shows you how to love and treat your partner as well.
Yes.
Like these are all just stemming points from where you can take it when you're like actually in the relationship, which is what I'm hopefully working on. You know, like I'm the other thing talking about this, which is kind of sad to talk about, but like you're not promised a relationship. Didn't you know that? Like that's crazy. That's kind of scary to think about. And it's especially hard when you make relationships an idol.
Ooh, yeah.
That's like been clocking me recently.
Yeah.
Like making relationships an idol and just being like wanting a Christ-centered relationship so much that I forget about my relationship with my father. with the
Period.
only
Oh
one
my
that can
gosh.
love me. Like, no man on this earth can love me more than God loves me. But
That's a
anyways, yeah, we didn't even talking about that, but it just came into my mind. I was like, oh man, totally
but
talking
no,
about making
that's
it an
like really
idol.
important because I know there's like a couple verses in the Bible that kind of warns us about idolizing
Mm-hmm.
worldly things
Yeah.
above God. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously like nothing's more important like to than God and your relationship with God and everything like that. And I think it's hard. It's definitely hard nowadays
It is.
to not prioritize like wanting a relationship
Mm-hmm.
almost. So, which I think is so important about like the waiting season and stuff
Yeah.
like that because we're literally just talking about like obviously I feel like everyone wants to have a relationship. Like I was just saying, I can't wait until I find that person, like just
Mm-hmm.
like my person and everything that comes with it. But how thankful I am for this waiting season and building my relationship with my father and just getting deeper in my faith and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, as much as you might want to find that special woman or man,
Mm-hmm.
don't forget that really your relationship with God is the most important thing.
Yeah. I feel like I've been making it an idol recently, and I don't even think I told you this yet. But the other day, I think it was literally just a couple nights ago, I was making like definitely making it an idol. Like I was thinking about it, like why haven't I been brought my forever person yet? Why did I have to go through all of what I went through, like with my experiences and stuff like that? And I just talked to God, like I sat there and I was just praying, like in my dark room, like calling out to God, like what's going on? What am I missing? Kind of thing. Like just tell me like your plans almost kind of thing.
Mhm.
And there's just like this voice in my head, and obviously, like, I am convinced it was the Holy Spirit. And all I heard was, I'm preparing you. And it like moved me to tears because I was like, I've been so focused on, a Christ-centered relationship and the man of God that hopefully he has for me, that I'm not even thinking like God put me in this single season for a reason. He put me in this waiting season because he's preparing me. Like there was something
Mhm.
like okay, whatever happened in like previous relationships happened. We're not diving into that obviously, but there's like a reason why that relationship ended was because I wasn't where I needed to be.
Mhm.
And I think that's important to take some self accountability because, like, I think a lot of people blame their partners a lot. And, like,
Yeah.
been there. Like, it's easy to put blame on somebody else, but until you sit back and look at, like, where you're at, like, I don't think you can fully accept what's happened in your past and forgive yourself too.
Mm.
Because Mm, that's hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
forgive yourself. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude, but you probably don't like have the experience of like being in a
Yeah.
relationship and like based off of past things that you've went through, like actually having to sit down and forgive yourself and be like, I know what I did was wrong, or like I didn't act this way, or I didn't do this enough, like things like that. But once you're out of said relationship or in your waiting season, being able to
2020
like
hindsight.
yeah, yeah, literally being able to like realize everything that happened and forgive yourself too
Mhm.
is really important. Um, but that ties in with the obviously being made for more. Like you're made for more peace too with yourself.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Preach.
Yep. It's going off right now.
Um, something you said during that reminded me of the sermon that we had last church
Mhm.
about preparing your heart.
Mm.
And I think that ties so much into the waiting season.
Mhm.
And one of the main points of our sermon on Sunday was that if you're not preparing your heart for what God has for you, then you're like missing out on everything that
Yeah.
He has for you. Like if
Mhm.
you're not ready to receive what God has for you, you're not going to receive it.
That's so true.
And so you're missing out on all of that joy and happiness.
Yeah, like why are you expecting so much from God when you can't even give him the time of day to like work on yourself and prepare
Mhm.
your heart? Like God obviously does all the work, but there's some work you got to put into it too to prepare your heart for what God has for you. And if he knows you're not ready yet, he's not going to give it to you.
Yep.
Clocked me. Clocked me. And guarding your heart too, which I think
Oh
I
yeah.
I think we might talk about that a little bit later. But in your singleness and waiting season, it's important to guard your heart too.
Mhm.
Because I think you're, well, obviously not, I know it's a very vulnerable state, especially if you just recently got out of a relationship. Like, you're very vulnerable. And, if people like come your way and like say all this kind of stuff, like, it's very easy to just give in and like let yourself go. But knowing and reminding yourself that you're made for more and God has like something perfect out there for you, and not getting
Mhm.
into like the hookup culture, which is where we're going next,
Yes.
like not getting into the hookup culture and like different things like that just to find satisfaction when you can find satisfaction in the Lord.
Mhm.
Amen. Thank you, God. But I think that pretty much ties into our next point, which we're going to talk about, which could get a little controversial. Controversial. That's
Little
okay.
awkward.
Little bit awkward,
Just a little
but
bit.
it's important. And I think a couple years ago, little me would have loved to hear this. So I hope there's someone out there that needs to hear this. And that's exactly why we're talking about it, because it's important. We're going to be talking about sexual sin and about purity rings and recommitting yourself and all that good stuff. Um, should we start out with our purity rings?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay.
Ooh.
So,
Show
yeah, I
them.
don't know if you can see it on the ring
Yes, I
finger.
can.
On the ring finger. Mine's a gold band that has a cross on the front, and on the inside engraved is promise. And I got mine from Elevated Faith, and they came with a little card, and I'm just going to read it. It says, not only is this promise ring a purity ring, it is a commitment to remain abstinent until marriage, but also a promise of purity, devotion of your life to Christ. It can even be worn as an engagement ring. With the word promise engraved on the inside and the cross on the outside, these promise rings are a great physical symbol of your promise to Jesus. And then it has a verse. It's 1 Thessalonians 4:3-5. You should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality, that each of you should learn to control his own body in a way that is holy and honorable, not in passionate lust like the heathen who do not know God. We didn't even read that before. I actually didn't even read that, and that's so good. Wow, not in a passionate lust like the heathen who do not know God.
I also only
Wow.
just learned what heathen meant the other day.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know what it
I
meant
don't know the
before.
true definition.
It's like literally, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like literally someone that doesn't know God. Or
Oh.
like that knows God but doesn't like follow
Hmm.
God. Yeah.
Oh, I
Doesn't like
didn't know
follow
that.
a religion.
I just thought,
Yeah.
wow, okay.
I know.
I didn't know that. Interesting. But yeah, so my purity ring, I had one before, a couple years ago. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, I had a silver one that was exactly like this actually. That's why I got a gold one, because I
Oh.
wanted to, well, I just wanted a new one in general. But yeah, so I had one a couple years ago, and I, as we know, fell out of my faith and did some things that I regret. But that's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier, like knowing that you're forgiven, because it's super hard, especially when you regret it. But the important thing to know is that if you have done it and you didn't want to and you regret it, like, you can recommit yourself, which is what I've chosen to do, and which is why I got the purity ring for myself, because I'm recommitting myself for marriage. And don't let anyone tell you like that's any less, or like you're less of a person because you did that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been letting the enemy tell me that for a little bit now, and it's not okay. Because that's not what God says about me. Like, everyone makes mistakes and everyone falters in their faith at times, and God forgives and loves no matter what. And it doesn't make you any less of a person for recommitting yourself for marriage. And it's just as beautiful too, because your future husband, wife, whatever, will understand and may even have went through a similar situation with you, which I think is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, my purity just ring just stands for future and making sure I hold myself to what I want and know I've always wanted. And I think that's pretty much it for mine.
Okay. Mine is a cute little ring that I got off of like a what?
Yours looks like a whole engagement ring. I love hers. Hers like has a whole like diamond on it.
Yeah, it does. It's cute. And there is like a little bit of a reason behind that too.
Okay.
But I mean nothing like big. But anyway, I got mine a couple months ago because I think the Lord was really just putting it on my heart because I really like I couldn't get it out of my head. I just kept thinking about it and thinking about it.
Mhm.
And growing up, I think I always planned on waiting until marriage.
Mhm.
If not marriage, then I always told myself I would wait until like I was with a really serious guy,
Yeah.
a relationship and stuff like that. And I almost like looking back, I kind of feel like that was like God protecting me and
Yeah.
like just putting it in my heart early,
That's
like
pretty
even
nice.
before I knew him really. Um, but yeah, so I got the purity ring a couple months ago, and mine also obviously stands for waiting until marriage and everything like that. But it also, for me, stands for purity of your heart and your mind. And there's actually a verse that I wanted to read, and it's Matthew 5:8. And it said, God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. And I think it just, for me, it just serves as a daily reminder to live more like Jesus
Mm.
and kind of like the what would Jesus do,
Yeah.
but for like all the time.
Yeah.
Um, because obviously it's hard sometimes to just fall to like your sins and everything like that. But I think having like a daily reminder somewhere you can see it the most.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, we both wear crosses
Yeah.
and we also have like Jesus bracelets on and stuff like that. But I feel like on my hand, it's like literally right there.
Yeah.
Like I see it all the time. And that's also kind of why I love that it's like kind of looks like an engagement ring
Yeah.
because it sometimes it like catches the light, which I like, and it just like will blind my eye. Not like blind it, but like it catches
Yeah.
my eye, and it just makes me look at it and remember what it's for.
Mhm.
And then I also like that it's kind of like an engagement ring because it kind of is.
Yeah. I think that's what my paper said too, that it could be served
Yeah.
as like an engagement ring.
And then something I want to touch on for that. Mine is on my left hand and my ring finger. So it kind of is like an engagement ring. There's two reasons for that. Which is kind of like the whole like engagement thing and like promise to Christ and everything like that. But also just my fingers are kind of weird. So like every hand is or every finger is like a different size. Because I have like scars on my hands, and so on my left hand it wouldn't have fit. So it just goes on my or on my right hand it wouldn't have fit. So it just goes on my left hand. But something I did want to touch with that is something I don't think I talked to you about it, but I talked to one of my other friends about like I was almost scared to wear it kind of like an engagement ring because I was like, oh, what if someone sees it and thinks like, oh, she's married, I won't even bother like going up
Yeah.
to her type of thing, like
Mhm.
mostly men.
Yeah.
Like someone that anyway.
Yeah.
My thought behind that is like if he's really the one for you, then a ring on your finger is not gonna stop
Yeah.
that. Like he could at least like ask, "Oh, what is that?" Like I've had people
Yeah.
ask me about it before. Um, so it's not like they're gonna assume that
Mhm.
you're unavailable because of it. And trust me, the Lord can work behind a ring on my around a ring on my finger.
Yeah.
Like a ring on my finger is not gonna stop the
Mhm.
person that God has for me. So, don't be afraid to wear it on your ring finger. And also, it kind of keeps the weirdos away. Sometimes. Sometimes it's not going to, but like
Okay.
low key, it
Yeah.
could.
Okay. I'm listening. Preach, girl. Go ahead.
But yeah, so that's what mine stands for.
I love that. I didn't even think about what hand I was wearing it on. I didn't even.
Yeah.
I didn't even.
I
I
just
didn't know there was a
also love the
difference.
idea of like one day I get engaged and like the only ring that has been on that finger was a promise to God, and then the ring that replaces it
Oh.
is a promise to my husband. And the fact that he's gonna have to like take it off and then put the engagement ring on, that just like
That just gave me
that's so cute,
chills. Oh my
right?
gosh, that's beautiful. I love that. Wait, mine's on my right finger. I didn't even know there was a difference between your left and your right. Now I'm about to switch my ring. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much. Um, wow. That got me good. I really like that. Okay. But anyways, I think there is two verses we wanted to tie in with the whole
Yes.
purity ring
As
and
far as,
saving
yeah.
yourself and stuff.
Which one did you want to read first?
We could do the First Corinthians
Okay.
one.
1 Corinthians 6:18 through 20. Let me find it. Run from sexual sin. No other sin is so clearly affects the body as this one does. For sexual immorality is a sin against your own body. Don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself, for God has bought you with a high price, so you must honor God with your body.
Wow.
Amen.
How cool that it affects your, well, okay,
Yeah.
not, I mean, I guess not cool, but like amazing that it affects your body.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's
And
like,
I think it's crazy that sexual sin is the only sin that affects you and not other people.
okay, yeah.
That's what I heard someone say, but
Hmm. I didn't
which
even
is like
think about
kind of
that.
because it really just affects your soul. Like,
You get like a soul tie.
yeah.
That's deep. That's deep. Like you're giving part of yourself to someone else when you commit
And
that.
that's why it's such a sacred thing to be saved for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why it's only supposed to be shared with your husband or wife.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you want to read the second one?
Sure.
Knock it out. This one is Matthew 5:27 through 30.
If I can find it. Okay. You have heard the commandment that says, "You must not commit adultery." But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart.
Oh,
Dang.
dang is right. What did I said this one hit me pretty hard because like it's not just doing the act, it's like looking too.
Hmm.
And I think you said something more about like lust too. Like it's not just like
Yes.
looking at someone and finding them
Yeah.
attractive.
That's
Lust is like
not
a
what
whole
they're
different
talking about.
thing.
Yeah.
Do you
And
want-
lust
yeah.
is, um, I don't know the exact definition, so don't quote me,
I'll look it up
but
while you talk.
lust is more like looking at a person and like almost the only thought that comes to your mind is that you want to sleep with them.
Yeah.
And you want to kind of objectify them in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so the definition is actually very strong sexual desire.
There you
So it's not just finding someone attractive or
go.
thinking they're cute. Like it's not that. It's like when, like you said, like that's your sexual desire is like only to be with them kind of thing. So
And
yeah,
it's kind of like I said this earlier, sexual sin and like lust is so dehumanizing. Like you're
yeah.
really like taking away from the value that like you're so valuable because you're made in the image of God.
Hmm.
And me saying that, oh, I see this like hot guy and I want to sleep with him.
Yeah.
That's like taking away from his value. That's dehumanizing
And it's
him.
also taking away the value of like the act of sex too.
Yes.
Like God made it a beautiful act like for two people when they commit to each other. It's not like also okay, I think we've had this conversation before too and about like romance books and how like
Mm,
smutty they can get. Like that's not true like sex, like what God made sex for.
yeah.
Like that's it's not supposed to be like a dirty thing that like shouldn't be talked about and like it's like that's not what it is. And I didn't even know like there's like a book in the Bible, like a chapter in the Bible that actually like hits on like that kind of stuff. I didn't
Oh,
even know
really?
that. Yeah, like God literally talks about it. Like he set it out to be this
Mm.
beautiful act for two people when they commit themselves to each other. So
Guys, God created sex.
yeah,
Like it's not like this big thing that, oh, you're not supposed to do it. It's just a matter of,
with the right person at
yeah,
the right time.
in a
Yep.
covenant joined by God.
Yeah.
Like he obviously, oh, and let's touch on this part. As far as like hookup culture and like when you're getting married to someone and someone is committing themselves to God, like I've seen people comment it all the time. Oh, but you have to test drive the car before you buy it. First of all,
What?
that is the most outrageous thing I've ever heard.
Ew.
And
Who,
kind of goes into again of dehumanizing people. Like,
if that's the only thing you're worried about, you have a
yeah,
deeper issue.
right?
That's not the only thing you should be worried about. And like, you should be after someone's heart and
Mm-hmm.
their passion for the Lord and their personality, not just about sex. That's
Yes.
disgusting. I'm sorry.
And it's like crazy to me to even think about the fact that some people, you're completely in love with this person, but say you do sleep together, whether you're married or not, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna leave you because it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like, what?
What? That's not what God
But
made that for.
also, I feel like don't be discouraged by that type of stuff and don't let it like affect you at all. Because,
Hmm.
like I said before, God created sex
Yeah.
and He wants you to enjoy it. Like, it's not something that, like, obviously you have to have sex to procreate and stuff like that, but it's not like a duty. Like, He wants you to
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah. Like, it's not supposed to be something
Yeah.
like gross to talk about,
Mm-mm.
or yeah. I don't know.
But yeah,
But
I hate when people say that.
yeah,
Oh, I can't
I
stand
haven't
it.
even heard anybody said that, but that's
Really?
yeah, no.
Wow.
Ugh. Man, well, this rolls right into our next topic, which is about boundaries, because that
Yeah.
all is one boundary to be set if you're seeking a true relationship with the Lord.
Yes.
It's important to set that boundary, and I think it's important to figure it out early.
Very
When you're
early.
talking to someone, it is so important to figure it out early. I like I had an experience with someone that I was talking to this one time, and like they made it clear right away, which I thought was beautiful. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was awesome that you can set that right away. Like, I'm saving myself for marriage. Like, and it's unfortunate that it's like had to come to that. Like, we're in this world now where hookup cultures are like so normalized that
Yeah.
you have to like be like, I'm saving myself for marriage, and people would just like turn away after that. It is really
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate, but I think it's beautiful to set that boundary really early.
It
Be-
does low-key make me nervous. Like
yeah.
growing up, I always felt like nervous. Like, oh,
Oh,
what
I
if I like
know.
this guy and I'll be like,
They don't.
I want to wait till marriage.
Mhm.
And they're like, that's weird.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. It is really nerve-wracking, but then again, like you said
With the right
earlier,
guy.
it's the Lord
It's,
protecting you
yeah.
as well. Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting yourself into something that you shouldn't be in. Like, if you set that right away and they say they're not about that, okay, I'm not meant to be with you. I'm sorry. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm going after, kind of thing. Um, but it's important to know that boundaries look different for everyone. Um, Something with, I think we talked about a little earlier about like how even kissing, like how people
Yes.
don't kiss until marriage,
Yes.
which isn't,
Which might sound crazy.
yeah, and it
It
isn't
does.
like how do I word this? It's not normal. Like, it really just depends on you as
Yeah.
a person and your convictions. Because for someone who, how do I word this? Really enjoys that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And it might like cause them to fall into
Mm-hmm.
temptation, not kissing it might just be helping them. And
Yeah.
that's something that like you can talk to about with God and your partner to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what your temptations are. Like, personally, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I
or
wouldn't
like
know, but sorry.
oh my gosh, that's funny. Um, but like kissing and like cuddling, like that stuff doesn't bother me. But oh, we can kind of hit on what you talked about with the line. Like, I know you couldn't figure
Oh
out what the
yeah.
exact wording was, but there's this thing, like, I've actually had people talk to me about it before, like, what's the line? Like, what's too far in a
Yeah.
relationship? One, if you have to ask that, I feel like you know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're questioning
And
if
it's
this
also
is too
just,
far,
yeah, sorry, go
no, you're
ahead.
fine. I was just gonna say, like, I feel like if you're questioning, is this too far? It might be too
Yeah.
far. But
And it's also like, I feel like that's the wrong question to be asking in the first place. Like, why? And this was like what I was saying earlier. Why do we even want to get that close to the line? Like, oh, what's the
yeah,
line that we can't cross? Well, why are you
putting
like,
yourself in that
yeah,
position to even think about crossing
like
it.
people think it's okay to do
Other thing.
everything but the
Mhm.
actual act of sex, which
It's
is not.
not. It's not.
And I feel like that really goes into like your heart
Yeah.
and your intentions behind that kind of stuff. Like if you're doing that you might as well be doing the
Yeah,
actual
because
act.
well, what did those verses say? Like, just looking at someone
Yeah.
with that mindset
Yeah.
is lustful actions and like adultery. Like, so doing everything else but having sex is the same thing as just
Mhm.
having sex. Like, it's all about your heart posture and not having those lustful thoughts and desires and things like that. So, but yeah, it kind of just depends on your personal conviction. Talk with it about God. That's something that has helped me a lot. Like talking with God about it. Because he'll make it clear to you. Obviously, like if you start questioning what's the line, are we going too far? God's probably convicting you, like your heart's
Mhm.
probably not in the right place. Um, but yeah.
And as far as boundaries go, obviously it's very important to set them. And like you said, it varies from person to person. And if you know something's gonna, like, say, if you're like making out with your partner and like one thing leads to another and you know it can lead to
Mhm.
another, then maybe just
Cut it
don't.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, oh crap,
That
what was I
goes
gonna
into
say?
with guarding your heart too, because that's a way of guarding your well, purity and
Mhm.
heart. Like if you know that it could go somewhere, guard yourself that you don't have to get yourself to that point.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't have to get to that point because that's only harder for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like to just, like stop. You know what I mean? Like don't let yourself get there.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. It is really hard and it's something you both have to be committed to.
Yes.
You cannot be with someone who doesn't share the same values because it's not going to work.
And on that note, if you bring up a boundary to your partner and your partner has any problem with it whatsoever, that's not your lifelong partner.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not comfortable with sacrificing something like that for the long run, or if your partner is not comfortable with that, then that's not the person God has for you. Like, I hate
Mhm.
to say it,
It's hard though.
but
It's really hard.
one thing I just thought of,
Oh gosh, I don't like that she laughed before she said that.
um, and this kind of goes along with purity, but also like anything as far as relationship wise, if you're questioning something that your partner does, or you don't think, okay, my new motto is my future husband wouldn't do that. And I think that's so, like, that really just snaps you into reality.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I wanted to talk about this regarding relationships.
Preach, girl.
Um, so keep in mind when you're dating and in the Christian world and choosing someone that you want to spend your life with, um, the person God has for you is going to be amazing in every aspect of your future. And if you're in a relationship with someone that you wouldn't want to be a father to your children,
A wife to your children, yeah.
yeah,
Or,
yeah, a wife to your
but
children.
yeah,
Sorry, mom to
just
your
flipping it.
child.
Yeah, sorry.
But like if you're with someone that you wouldn't want around your family or you wouldn't want,
You couldn't see a future with.
yeah,
Like it should be dating to marriage.
yes, and
Yeah.
everything that comes after that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
something to keep
That's
in
really
mind.
important.
Definitely.
100%. Which now perfectly transitions into talking about like what a man of God, what a woman of God looks like. And let me say this before we get into this. It's important to remember that even when God brings you the person, your forever person, they're still not going to be perfect.
Mm,
Like, I think
mhm,
I've been thinking about that recently. Like, I made, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I made like a whole sheet of like my standards and what I want a man of God to look like before I consider like this could be my forever person. But it's important to know that they're not going to be perfect. The only perfect man, human to walk this earth was
Jesus
Jesus.
Christ.
So
Love him.
know that there's going to be faults, know that there's going to be past trauma, past
Mhm,
hurt. Like that stuff doesn't always go away easily. And you can work through things with people too. And also you can help bring people to the Lord, which for me in my life right now, I want someone that could lead me, but
mhm,
I've also been that person that's helped brought people to the Lord. And I think it's different for everyone. Everyone's aspect like of what they want in a relationship or who they want is different. But like I want someone that's gonna like lead me to the Lord, but that also doesn't mean that they're gonna be perfect, bottom line.
Mhm.
So
Which also ties back into like the waiting season and everything like that. Like you're in a waiting season because your husband's not ready, because you're not ready. Your future
mhm.
wife's not ready. And that's not a bad thing. Like just because you haven't met the person God has for you doesn't mean you're not going to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean like they're just prepare it's your preparing season.
Yeah. That just made me think of something. I thought it was so beautiful the other day when was my doom scrolling on TikTok where you just scroll for hours. I saw this post and it was like, why am I still single or whatever? And then the next slide was like a man like on his knees praying that his future wife would be
Oh my
single
gosh.
and like working on herself and stuff like that.
I love
That's my
that.
favorite thing to think about right now, that the Lord is keeping me single because my future husband's just praying that I'm staying single and working on myself until the Lord brings us together.
And honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Mm-mm.
Like I'm not gonna lie, I feel there's a lot of the times where I feel so like almost like an outsider to like the culture of this world
Yeah.
because like I feel like people my little brother had a girlfriend and he's in like sixth grade. Like I feel like people have like quote unquote girlfriend and
Yeah.
boyfriends like so young and it's such like a dating and like talking culture and like hookup culture
Yeah.
and everything like that. So it almost like for me who has not done anything, haven't had a boyfriend, haven't really had any of that. Um, Obviously it makes me feel a little like left out almost,
Yeah.
but also the thought of God bringing me my future husband and like having all the
It's gonna be
firsts
so much
with him,
sweeter.
like that's so cute.
Yeah, it is. No, it's really cute. I like that a lot. I love that. Um, yeah, no, but it's really important to just keep working on yourself, which is why we're going to talk about being a woman, becoming a woman and man of God. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about a woman of God. There's two different sections that we found in our search. The first one is pretty popular and it's a Proverbs 31 woman, and the other one is a Judges 4 woman. And I don't really know as much about Judges 4 as much as Proverbs 31. I did like a whole Bible study on Proverbs 31, but Judges 4 is also somewhat popular. And the Judges 4 woman is someone who's just really wise and courageous and doesn't settle and is like protective and confident, like that kind of like really strong woman. Like
Mm,
that's just like what I think of. And not saying Proverbs 31 woman isn't, like don't get me wrong, obviously they are. But like that Judges 4 woman is just so confident in herself. Like she doesn't need nobody else until like the
mm,
Lord is gonna show. Like that's just what comes to my mind. But and then the Proverbs 31, we recommend that you read it on your own. It's a very good chapter. We're just gonna hit on some of the points that I had down about Proverbs 31 women. It says that she is trustworthy, she brings good to others, she's not lazy, she's productive, she's strong, she's generous, she's full of wisdom, she provides faithful instruction, she's blessed and loved, and she fears the Lord. And there's so many other things that I have written down in my Bible study for that chapter that we recommend. Again, you guys go and read it to figure out more on your own because the Lord can show you something else that I didn't read or I didn't write down. Um, but those different qualities that honestly, I sat there the one night and I just looked at all of the things that I wrote down about this section and thought about the things that I'm not yet and how beautiful it is that the Lord's like preparing me to become those things. And
mm,
again, it's not like I'm gonna be perfect. Like I'm gonna be lazy some days. There's some days I'm not gonna be productive. I'm not always gonna be generous, but striving to become that kind of person overall and do my very best every single day to make a dedication to be those things is super important. You have anything to hit on with those? Or should we just skip to the
mm.
man?
No.
Skip to the man? Okay. So then a man of God, we have two verses about becoming a man of God. So the first one is First Timothy 6, 11, and it says, "But you, man of God, flee from all this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness." Do you want to hit on it or do you want me to hit on it?
I know you want to.
Um, I liked the gentleness part because I think our world has this, what is it, like
Stereotype.
yeah, stereotype that men need to be all big and bad, don't share their
Mhm.
emotions, these tough guys. But like literally right there in the Bible, read it yourself if you really want to. It says, and gentleness. Like a man should be treating you with gentleness.
Mhm.
And a man who is unemotionally available and cannot express their emotions is not your forever man. Okay? Bottom line. Says it right in the Bible. Go read it. Anywho, the second verse is Titus 1 6 through 9. It says, "An elder must be blameless, faithful to his wife, a man whose children believe and are not open to the charge of being wild and disobedient. Since an overseer manages God's household, he must be blameless, not overbearing, not quick-tempered, not given to drunkenness, not violent, not pursuing dishonest gain. Rather, he must be hospitable." Hospitable?
Mhm.
Okay. One who loves what is good, one who is self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so that he can encourage others by sound doctrine and refute those who oppose it.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Um, what
I feel like
I,
that's a really great explanation too.
yeah, a
Like
lot.
literally just spells it out.
A lot of what I have for my standard sheets comes like from that too, which I think is awesome. Like the not quick-tempered thing, like there's so much in there. Not to be like given to drunkenness, not violent.
Mhm.
Again, just proving that like a man should not be this big bad tough character that we make them out to be. And there's a difference between like being the like man of the house and like
Mhm.
protecting and caring and loving and stuff like that. Like there's a difference between that aspect of like how do I word
Masculinity?
yes. Exactly. She gets me, guys. Um, there's a difference between that type of masculinity and like the like big bad can't show their emotions,
Mhm.
emotionally unavailable men.
Because I also think that's really toxic. Not
Yeah.
only for like a relationship, but for him.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good to bottle up your emotions,
It's very
guys.
harmful. Like
Yeah.
it creates a lot of stress and emotional baggage that you don't need to carry,
Mm-hmm.
that the Lord can carry.
And if you bottle it enough, bottle up enough,
Uh-huh.
you're gonna explode at some point.
Yeah. And if you don't figure it out before you get into a relationship, it could be on that person, which
Mm-hmm.
is very harmful to a
Yeah.
relationship. Yep. So now we can talk about more like the relationship. I'm gonna hit a little bit on my standards. I think our standards are probably really
Like,
similar. But I took the time a little bit ago to write out the sheet. Probably can't see it, but it's a whole big sheet about what I think a man of God is like. And I actually have a sticker on the top that says his timing is perfect to remind myself that just because I write this down doesn't mean it's gonna happen tomorrow. But to trust that God will bring a man who represents these qualities that are right from the Bible in my life when I'm prepared, when he's prepared, when the Lord is prepared. And I think it's really cool to write it down to also serve as like a physical reminder, like do not settle.
mm-hmm.
Like this is what I wrote down. I would say, oh my gosh, probably like 2 months ago now.
Probably a little more than that.
Yeah, probably. But I wrote this down a while and I actually haven't read it since I wrote it. But it's like a good reminder that like do not settle until the man you're talking to follows these. And you can also do this, man, my men out here watching these videos. You can do this for a woman too. Like base it off of Proverbs 31, base it off of Judges 4. Like write these down so you can see, don't get into a relationship, don't even like think about it until the standards that God helps you write down are met. Anyways, so the first thing that I have is can you fill in the blanks? And it's actually 1 Corinthians 13 4 through 8. And I'm not going to read all of it, but it's like it's the verse that says like love is patient, love is kind. And instead of writing love down, you write a blank line. And then you ask yourself, can you fill in those blanks with their name? And you can also do it with yourself too. Like,
Ooh,
is Lindsay patient? Is Lindsay kind? Does she not envy? Like, that's another
that's
thing
a
too.
good one.
I saw that on TikTok the other day. Oh,
Yeah.
saw it on TikTok. Had to happen once an episode. Um, so yeah, but filling in those blanks because, and then at the end it says love never fails. So like if it failed,
Mm,
clearly it wasn't love.
yes. Wow, that's a very
Yeah.
important aspect.
And you can love someone, but like it wasn't the love that God had set out for you. It wasn't
Yeah.
his kind of love. Um, and then the standards that I have at the bottom are has a pure heart, wants the best for me, has an individual relationship with Jesus, is a spiritual leader, does not entertain other women, attends church actively, worships the Lord publicly, prays over me, reads his Bible actively, loves my family, puts Jesus number one, leads me to Christ, not the bed, has self confidence, similar goals, does not drink or smoke, is a good communicator, and does the small things. Percentages are
Period.
probably pretty similar.
Amen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably don't have
basically.
anything.
Um,
And in my opinion,
the
they're
other thing I
bare
would probably
minimum.
add is like good father. I think
Oh,
that's like the only thing I
good
would
with
add.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a good one to
And like
add.
with your family and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that's kind of obvious.
I personally think they're bare minimum, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Like you shouldn't be settling
for less.
if you're the Proverbs 31, which I am trying my best every day to become, if you are a Proverbs 31 woman, you should be deserving of someone that would do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say about like doing all the small things too, like the romantic things, like bringing me flowers and writing me notes and stuff like that, it's not the reason I didn't write that stuff down is because it's not necessary. Like that's not maybe not how everyone shows their love, which is fine. But I think that stuff is really important, like to do the small stuff. Like that's kind of why I wrote down the small stuff because it doesn't have to be getting me flowers every week, and I'm not asking for that. I'm definitely not asking for that because I can't keep flowers alive. Maybe like once every couple weeks or a month because maybe I'd keep them alive. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's just like the little small things like opening your car door.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a given in my
Or like
opinion.
remembering the little things.
Yeah, like remembering important like I don't know if you're in college having like important
Yeah, I
tests.
was gonna say the same exact thing.
We're like
Same
wavelength right
wavelength.
now. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much for my standards paper. And the other thing that we wanted to talk about is how can you tell if they're a Christian?
Oof.
Because that's
That's
hard.
yeah.
But when I wrote this down, the first thing that came to my mind was their fruits, like how they act.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should be able to tell that they're a
Yes.
Christian. I talked with
Yeah.
my one friend about this because we were having a little chat the one day. Like, she's like, "Oh, well, I can't tell if he's a Christian." And I'm like, "Well, babe, like you
That's your
should be able to
answer.
tell. Like that is your answer. If they're
Yeah,
not
I
making
went
it,
through the same thing.
yeah,
Like there was a guy that I liked, and it was like at the beginning of me kind of getting into my faith and kind
mm-hmm.
of really solidifying to myself that I didn't want someone that wasn't Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was kind of hanging out with him and stuff, I kind of got in my head about it a lot, but I'm kind of glad I did because I was like, I don't want someone that's not Christian,
Yeah,
and I couldn't tell if he was, but also if you can't tell, that's your answer.
yeah,
Like you should be able to tell.
yeah. Because I personally want someone that worships the Lord publicly. Like
Hmm.
you, even if I mean, okay, the Bible verse in the bio doesn't always mean they're a Christian,
No.
but if you
Neither does
can't.
the cross around their neck.
Yeah. But like they're good indicators, like they could be.
Yes.
Like if you can't even at least give me that, then you're definitely not
Yeah.
like which okay, there probably are people out there that might be Christian and might just not post about it, which is
Also,
fine.
there is also a difference between a man who is Christian and a
A
man who
Christian
is
boy
God.
versus a man of God.
Yes.
Yep. Yep, 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 yep,
Like you
yep.
said, like just because they
Claim they're a Christian.
claim to be Christian, just because they have
Mm,
a Bible verse in their bio, just because
preach.
they go to church every Sunday, does
Preach.
not mean they're a man of God.
Yeah. It's their fruits, which is exactly what we're
And it
talking
doesn't
about.
mean you're a woman of God either,
Yeah.
ladies.
Oh, yep. Right. Yeah. Sorry. This whole time we're just talking about man of God because that's kind of what we always talk about. Like, I mean, it's important to recognize ourselves too, which we do talk about too. But um, you should be able to tell.
Which is also a great indicator to hold something to hold yourself accountable for. Like, if you met someone new, or if you had a friend and one day they were asking about church or something like that, and you're like, oh, I go to church, like I'm a Christian.
Mhm.
And they say something along the lines of, oh, I didn't know that. Or, oh, like that's great. I never knew you were a Christian. Ouch.
Yeah.
Like
Kind of
if you,
shot to the heart.
yeah, like I would probably be so sad if someone said that to
Yeah.
me.
It's just like the hard thing because you can even be reading your Bible every day and still not representing Christ because
Hmm.
it's about reading the Bible and getting it from your head to your heart and
And
actually
applying it to
yeah,
your
yeah,
life.
producing, yeah, the fruits.
Yeah.
Like those fruits should just be like a given, like being honest, being loving, being kind, like all the different, many different fruits that there are that you can have. Like those fruits should be shown. It shouldn't just be like you having to say, "Oh, I'm a Christian," like
Hmm.
I read my Bible, I go to church. No, 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 no. That's religion kind of stuff. Like it's about your
Mm.
relationship with the Lord. Like
Yeah.
I want a man who has a personal relationship with the Lord, doesn't just come to church. And can I say, you cannot bring someone to God.
I was just gonna say something along the same lines. A woman of God, a man of God, is going to be a man of God and a woman of God without your instruction.
Yes.
Like if you're truly a man of God, if you're truly a woman of God, you're not gonna need someone else
Yeah.
to bring you to
And
the
it
Lord.
shouldn't just be the two, like, I think it's beautiful if you do Bible studies together too, but they should be doing them on their own. Like, it
Yes.
shouldn't be like your rel your relationship with the Lord should not rely on your relationship with your partner. Period. End of story.
Amen.
It shouldn't though. Like, you should have your own personal relationship with the Lord because um the woman needs to have a relationship with the Lord, the man needs to have a relationship with the Lord. You can have a relationship with the Lord together, but you still need those personal
Hmm.
relationships. Like it takes three to make a relationship work. You, the man, the woman, and God. But you need to have your personal own relationship with the Lord as well.
Yes.
And there's just some things, like what a relationship of God would look like. Obviously, like doing Bible studies and going to church is important. Holding each other accountable in your faith is important. Having similar values with like all the sexual sin and just values in general too. Um, Morals, goals, all that good stuff all indicate a good Christ-centered relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. That was good. That was sorry it was so long, but that was a good episode.
Yeah.
I needed that as well. Like as much as like it was us talking about it, like I needed that. It's a good reminder to keep
Hmm.
reminding yourself of this kind of stuff. And just knowing that you're made for more and God has so much more for you too.
One thing I wanted to add about the whole episode as a whole, kind of, in regards to the waiting season, I think it's really important to pray for your spouse.
Yeah.
And like we said before about, I think it's beautiful to think that maybe the reason I'm not in a relationship yet is because my future husband is praying that another man doesn't pursue me
Hmm.
and kind of give me heartbreak and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you're in the waiting season right now and you're kind of going through it and you're like, why hasn't it happened yet? And this and that, take a minute to just sit down and write a little prayer for your future wife or future husband.
Hmm. I have mine on my prayer board.
Aww.
I do. I have it for my future section in my prayer board.
Aw.
I also thought like this cute thing. There's like a notebook that you can write about like prayers for your future
Ooh,
husband
yeah,
too,
I
which
saw
I think would be
that.
really cute. And then you give it to them on your wedding day. Guys,
That's so cute.
I know. Like to show that you've been
Oh
praying
my
for them all along.
gosh.
What if I start right now? Like tonight, I'm gonna write a
There
future.
you go.
That's gonna be what we're gonna do
And
tonight.
then to be able to look back and see that God answered all of your prayers.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Period.
Amen. Wow. I think that's all.
Yep.
We talked about a lot today. But
Yes.
to wrap it up, don't forget your worth.
Yeah.
Bottom line, don't forget your worth. Don't settle. Know what you were made for, which is more than maybe the situation you're in now. Who knows? Pray over it. Talk to God about it. Do some like what is it?
Reflection?
Yeah, self-reflection. If you're the woman or man of God that he needs you to be in order that if you are in a relationship now, need to get out of that relationship and pray for your future, or if you're in your single season, becoming that person of God that you need to be.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's
Well,
all.
we hope this episode we hope you enjoyed it and we hope that it helps
Mm-hmm.
at least one person out there because even if it helps at least one person, that makes it so much worth it
Mm-hmm.
to us.
Yeah.
So,
And remember that you're loved so much, and the true love of God is the most
yeah.
important. And he loves you so, so, so much, more than any man, woman could love you on this earth. He loves you way more than that, and focus on his love as well. All right. See you next
Next
Monday.
episode.
Bye, guys.